Hello, fellow Rebel Capitals. Hope you're well. We've got some news this morning coming out about a missile hitting Poland. And I want to actually look at this as the glass half full. I'm actually kind of, obviously, I hate the fact that this missile hit Poland, and I think there's a couple casualties there. That's horrific. But I think what we're seeing in the mainstream media now, the narrative has completely changed. And I think for those people who want to see peace with Russia and Ukraine, and for those people who want to see the world avoid a nuclear holocaust or World War III, there's a silver lining here. I think that's the best way to say it. So let's start off by going over the initial news. And I saw this yesterday. And of course, everyone was initially just pointing the finger at Russia, and saying that this had to be a Russian missile, yada, 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 to the point where Zelensky came out and gave this message. So Josh, do you want to go ahead and pull that up and play the video?
Yeah, it's in Ukrainian. Let me know if you can hear.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to pull the whole. I didn't realize it was Ukrainian. Let's just read this quote here. So he says, terror is not limited to our national borders. Russian missiles hit Poland to fire missiles at NATO territory. This is a Russian missile attack on collective security. This is a very significant escalation. We must act. So this is straight from Zelensky. Okay. So now let me go over to the more recent news coming out on CNBC. Straight from NATO. I got to do a screen share here. Shoot. Bear with me, guys. Forgot to do the screen share. There we go. Straight from NATO. And this is after Zelensky came out with those comments. NATO chief says Poland blast likely caused by Ukrainian missile. But of course, it's not Ukraine's fault. And that's just pretty much the entire article is restating exactly what you see here in the title. So first of all, I want to point out that, I'm no fan of Putin at all, but I dislike pretty much all governments. And I think the Russian government is definitely evil. Absolutely, 100%. And I think that what they've done here in Ukraine is wrong. It's morally reprehensible, among many other things. But I also dislike the Ukrainian government. And I dislike Zelensky. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. I think he's a pawn of the United States, maybe even the global elite, who knows. But I am for, or I stand by the people of Ukraine, the people, not the government. And I stand by the people of Russia, just like I stand by the people, the citizens of the United States, just like I stand by the citizens of Canada, the truckers, the citizens of Australia. But I detest those governments. There's a big difference. And unfortunately, people in today's day and age cannot compartmentalize. But the silver lining here, I think, and maybe I'm being overly optimistic. I don't know. You guys tell me in the chat. But rewind 3 or 4 months, and there is no, in my opinion, there's no way a NATO official would have come out and said anything other than Russia evil, Ukraine good. That's it. That was the narrative. And no matter what happened, it was always Russia bad, Ukraine good. I think, and again, this is just my opinion here, for what it's worth, if this would have happened 3 or 4 months ago, this NATO chief would not have said this was likely caused by Ukraine. I think he would have just stuck with the line that you heard in the mainstream media and what Zelensky was repeating, that this 100% definitively was Putin shooting this missile at Poland in an effort to escalate this war. So I think the good news now is that we're seeing a shift in the narrative from the global elite right here from a NATO chief. So this would lead me to believe that now all of us, and I would guess, again, this is just complete speculation, but I would guess that the global elite in Europe, remember, Klaus lives in Europe. He's right there. He's got a front row seat to all this nonsense. I think they can see the economic damage that has been created by these high energy prices and the sanctions against Russia. And they realize, they're like, whoa, time out here. We may have kicked the can down the road and we may have been able to paper over this in this winter. But if this doesn't end, each winter will get worse and worse and worse. And yes, we're trying to diversify away from all of this energy, but these supply chains have been integrated for decades. And we can't just flip a light switch and go from Russian energy to XYZ energy without disrupting things even further, right? Even though Russia may have been a marginal producer globally, they were not in Europe. And the impact of what they produce, taking that right offline, has massive systemic fallout and contagion risk due to the supply chains that are involved here, right? Like, I think what these kind of do-gooders, or what the global elite are realizing, is that, and you think they would have realized this with renewable energy, but you can't just quickly move away from not just fossil fuels, but you can't just quickly move away from the existing supply chains for energy. Just like you can't quickly move away from the supply chain, the global supply chains for anything for that matter. And that the ramifications of this are absolutely devastating, and they could potentially get worse. And another guess here, I'm going to throw this out there, is that the politicians in Europe are feeling the heat big time, big time. I just read this morning that the UK inflation rate came out, and it was over 11%, 11%, due to mostly food and energy, the two things that people need the most, along with shelter. So you can think about all, society, and these politicians aren't stupid to the point where they know that historically, when your head gets put in that guillotine, it's a result of civil and social unrest that is a result of people not being able to afford to put food on the table. They can connect those dots. And they know that, figuratively speaking, if they allow this to continue, their heads are going to be in the guillotine within the next year or so. And these politicians obviously want to avoid that. So they're probably calling Klaus and Ursula and saying, hey, this position, I know you guys want World War III, and you guys want to decrease the population by 50%. I understand your Thanos plan, but we've got to delay that a little bit here, because if we don't, you're going to get so much civil unrest that they're going to take you down just as fast as they're going to take me down. And again, this is total speculation. I want to be clear, but I think this is, in my opinion, this could be what's happening behind the scenes. Regardless of why this is happening, if the net result is that we move closer and closer to peace and further away from World War III, I think that's a good thing. And just like at the end of 2021, you guys remember, it was in November of 2021. I remember it well because it was right around Thanksgiving when the Omicron variant came out. And I said that this could be the shift. This could be the shift. This gives the this kind of, I thought that was a catalyst that would take us to a lot of the insanity going away. Not all, but a lot of it going by the wayside, as far as the mandates and all that insanity that we saw back in 2021. And I think this could be a similar catalyst that could change the narrative towards away from, Russia bad, Ukraine evil, go World War III, go World War III, go World War III, to, hey, let's take a step back here. And, Russia is losing. That's good. Therefore, this gives us an opportunity to slide in and maybe promote some discussion between the two groups that could lead to peace. So I'm cautiously optimistic here. And on that note, guys, I want to let you know that today at noon Eastern, I'm actually going to be interviewing 2 Ukrainians and a Russian. 3 people, 2 Ukrainians and a Russian, excuse me, because they have an incredible story to tell about how this invasion has impacted their own lives and how it made their friendship and their business relationship even better. So kind of, with all the doom and gloom here and all the craziness around what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, I heard these people's story firsthand. They're here in Medellin. And as soon as I did, I said, you guys have to come on the channel and tell this, because again, it just shows you how the people involved here, wherever they live, whatever arbitrary line in the sand they live, whether they live to the right or the left of that arbitrary line in the sand, the people here we need to support, regardless of what country they're from or whatever it is. And I think this just highlights how people of any culture, ethnicity, country can come together and really do good in the world, while at the same time their governments are promoting evil and doing horrific things. So that'll be noon today. Stay tuned for that. All right, guys, as always, make sure that you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism, and we'll see you in the next video, which will actually be before noon, and then we'll get to the video I just talked about. See you soon.